What is going on, every guys, and welcome to the RPS PGA Live show. I am your host, JSU. With me today, we've got one Hoopster. Hoopster, what's going on, brother?
Oh, nothing. Excited to have golf back, man. Golf has been a favorite of mine for a few years now in DFS. Just like one of the best sweats, like by far. If you have a team in contention going into Sunday, you got the 6 of 6, you're feeling good. It's like no better feeling in DFS. And we finally have it back. Like I didn't dabble too much with that Outlaw Tour. I know a lot of people did. I didn't get into it, so it's my first taste of golf since March. So excited to have it back. It's gonna be a fun week, hopefully.
Yeah, I was shocked when you were telling me before how much success you had last year in golf, and hopefully we can continue riding that success. I'm definitely going to be riding it. And yeah, golf. I mean, nothing like the golf sweat, man. The 4 days, and but I'll tell you right now, what is the worst thing about golf is when you sit there on Friday and you watch that last guy that you have, have a putt to either make the cut or miss the cut, and he misses it, and you're just done. You're done early. So
Yeah.
that's one thing
So
about golf that really tilts me. But at the same time, it's nothing like a 4-day golf sweat.
yeah, and so like with every positive comes a negative, obviously. And one of the worst feelings in DFS is when you have about 40, 50, 150 dead lineups sitting in your live part of DraftKings, your DraftKings live contest, and you have to watch those Saturday, Sunday, knowing that you're gonna like lose money. That's also a really bad feeling.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And then we've got our guy, our GPP expert for PGA, AP. AP, what's up, boss?
What's going on, JSU?
Oh man, not much. Getting ready for this this PGA slate. This is gonna be awesome. We got awesome contests on DK. I mean, this is gonna be great.
Yeah, it is. No, I love golf. I'm like you guys. I mean, I played the Outlaw Tour once, I think, and the day I played it, like 5 of my guys were way under par, but one guy wasn't being recorded. I have no idea who it was. Like once the event was over for that day, it came in and he shot like 7 or 8 over, and so I went from thinking I was going to win a ton of money to not. So that was not fun, but I'm pumped for this. I'm pumped for this event, man. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, this is going to be great. They got awesome contests, like I said, on DraftKings. They got the Millie Maker. They got the big 555 contest. Definitely, I'm going to be in those. I'm going to be pumping some money in. Just a few things, guys, before we get rolling. We're going to be going live with the site soon, so make sure you get over to runpuresports.com. Subscribe. This is going to happen soon, guys. Hopefully within the next couple of days. So get over there, subscribe, so you can get the news right when we launch live, which should be hopefully, like I said, in the next few days. Also, just follow us, subscribe to our YouTube and Twitch channels. If you like us, give us a like. But yeah, I mean, I think that's enough. Let's kind of get into the course. We got the Charles Schwab. Let's kind of start with you and maybe just give us a little, course breakdown. What we're looking at here.
Yeah, so I mean, you got a par 70 here, so it means only 2 par 5s. That's the big difference, obviously. 7,200. I hear it's going to play a little bit longer than people have kind of thought based on the way that the course is set up. So it's a less than driver course for a lot of these guys on most of the holes. So you look at the guys up top, Rory, Jon Rahm, obviously the 2 best in this field, but their biggest weapon is kind of negated a little bit. So we'll talk about that as we go through the field. But it's a course where it brings a lot of other guys into play, guys that can't necessarily bomb it. Like your Matt Kuchars, Webb Simpson always has great success on courses like this. I like these sort of layouts because, like I said, it kind of brings everyone into play. Some of these courses where these guys can bomb at 350, they have a huge advantage on a lot of holes, and that's not necessarily the case. One of the par 5s here, everyone will be able to reach, and it sounds like the second one, not many, like at all, will be able to reach it. So, and we got a strong field, super strong field. It's like a major type field here, which is awesome right out of the gate. So there's a lot to talk about here, and definitely looking forward to seeing the course here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we got 148 golfers, which is, a lot more than what they've had, I'm pretty sure, in the past. I think it was around 120. So, I mean, that's definitely it. And then, like you said, the field is just so much stronger than in the past. I mean, let's just, real quick. I mean, we've got some of the top golfers in the world, Rory, JT, Rahm, like you said. So, I mean, this is, definitely going to be a lot tougher for those guys who have won in the past. But, I mean, still got some good guys at the bottom. AP, what are you seeing? Do you have anything else to add for the course, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm really excited for this week because we haven't had golf in a while. We haven't seen these guys in a while, and every week it's always like a recency's bias thing. You have people arguing against recency bias, and it throws a lot of fun into it. And now we get this period where these golfers haven't played. We don't know what their form is, and we get a pretty tough track that they're going to be playing on. And so I think I think certain people will fall into some narrative traps. I think we're going to see some carnage for sure. I think we're going to see like 2 or 3 massively chalky guys miss the cut and tilt people. And I think we're going to see some other guys make it through and play well. And so I don't know. I love these weeks. The more that ownership is spread out, the more I'm going to like DFS for that week, especially for tournaments.
One other thing to add about, like, a lot of people obviously look at course history, which is important. I'm not looking at that as much this week because this course or this event doesn't see this sort of star-studded field. So the results are kind of skewed for me. Obviously, if you look back, you see some people that have had success here year after year playing against a much weaker field than we're going to see this week. So if you're a big course history person, be careful a little bit.
I also should add real quick, JSU. I mean, I'm right here in Nebraska. We got these tornado cells all around us. So I don't know if we're live or not, but if I got to scoot, I got to scoot.
Yeah. Hey, it's all good. Hopefully you don't have to, but if you do, we'll hold it down. But let's kind of start at the top and we'll work our way down, fellas. And let's start with, the 10K and up range. We got Rory at 11.8 on DraftKings, Rahm at 11,000, 10.6 for JT, Bryson at 10.1. And, kind of what I seem to see from, this early ownership is, Bryson's kind of the one I think that's going to come in under 10%. He's going to be the lowest owned out of 3. But then all 3 of these guys are going to kind of take ownership away, and they're all going to kind of come in maybe around 15 to 20%. What do you guys think, Hoop? Let's start with you. Who do you like in this range, and do you see anything different? Like, do you see someone else coming in lower ownership than what I was saying?
So one thing I've noticed with these fields where we have strong players like this is a major type field. I've noticed like the ownership is very spread out and you don't have much to worry about. It's easy to get overweight. Like in golf, I think it's very important. If you're going to play a guy, you want to make sure you're overweight on them. And it's kind of easy to do when you have a field like this because people have their favorites. They stick to them, they play them. So the ownership's really spread out. Another thing I noticed in these big, strong fields is you see a lot of people going to the balance builds because they say, you know what, all right, I look at Rory Mcllroy. He's $3,000 more expensive than a guy like Gary Woodland. I'll just save the $3,000. Then I got Gary Woodland. I can play a guy like Tony Finau that's 8.7K, and everyone kind of just falls into that balance type build. So for me up top, yes, you look, Rory, Rahm will probably have, I think they'll end up having similar type ownership, but it's not going to be anything too high. I'm a Rory guy. I think he's in a tier of his own. I think he's just a phenomenal golfer. Should have had a few wins early on. Just the Sunday struggles continue to get to him. He's in contention basically every single week. So for me, it's Rory that I'm going to get overweight on. And like I said, it's easy. I mean, it's easy to get overweight. Like there's no way these guys are super chalky or, whatever term you want to use. So for me, it's Rory. You got to take stands. I'm me personally probably going to end up fading Jon Rahm and then have a little bit of Justin Thomas because I know I'll be able to get overweight on Justin Thomas a lot easier than with Jon Rahm. So when we're talking about these 3 top guys, I'm going to go Rory. Like I said, I'm going to make sure I'm overweight on him. I like Thomas, and then I'll probably be fading Rahm this week.
And just for the people who you're saying you're going overweight on Rory, and right now, let's say Rory's coming in at 15 to 18%, maybe 20 even. Let's say he comes in at 20. So what is your overweight stance if he's coming in at 20%? Just for them.
I'm gonna try to be in the double range. So I'm thinking, I'm going to be 35-40% Rory, because I think his ownership ends up being in the high teens to around 20. So I think 35 to 40% is good enough.
All right, yeah. So that's good. That's what I was thinking. So AP, what do you like up here? Are you with Rory? Are you on someone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has to be with Rory, and I think the consensus you're going to hear is, I mean, he's the best golfer in the world. He is. He's leading the rankings right now. Everyone knows that. The question comes down, like, are you going to play him? And so ownership is always really interesting on weeks like this, because here's like, I think the most common build route is going to be plug in Webb Simpson. Okay, he's 9,800. I think he's a fantastic play. But if you plug in Webb, then you plug in Rory, you can't fit any of those other high-priced guys in there. And so that's going to, as Hoop said, dilute a lot of ownership up top. And so I think that makes things really interesting. I agree with Hoop that I'm probably going to fade Jon Rahm. Probably not like in my Millie Maker build. Like if I'm doing 150, I won't fade him. But if I had like a core 5 builds, I probably wouldn't fade him. Or I'd probably fade him in my core 5 builds. But the guys I like, obviously I like Rory. I really like Justin Thomas. That might be one of my leverage plays. So what I was getting at is I think Justin Thomas will be pretty low owned, because when you click Webb Simpson, and if you try to click Rory, that's going to leave you with not very much salary. If you click Webb Simpson, and if you click a guy like Colin Morikawa or Patrick Reed or one of these other guys like Jon Rahm, it's just going to, your options are so thin up top. So what I want to do, even in my Millie Maker lineups, is I want to get really overweight on some of these guys. Justin Thomas, I'll probably have some Bryson. In the Millie Maker, I'll probably be underweight on Webb. And I like some Brooks Koepka as well. And the reason I like Brooks, you think of this course, that bomber mentality is kind of taken away, being, only 2 par 5s, par 70. They're still, it's still a pretty long track. So these guys do have to have some length, but I just think the field's, absolutely stacked. And I love playing Brooks Koepka in stacked fields. So Brooks Koepka, Justin Thomas are 2 guys I really like, off shares of Rory and off shares of Bryson in my Millie Maker builds.
Yeah, and just so I can touch on FanDuel real quick, we will talk a little FanDuel. I'll make sure I'll get in some FanDuel for you guys. For me, if I'm looking over at FanDuel and then I look over at DraftKings, we got Rory at 12-2. Rahm is $300 less than Rory on FanDuel. JT's $400 less. I think if you like Rory a ton, I think he's a much better play on FanDuel. I think you can go overweight on him. I'm probably going to play more Rory on FanDuel just because the pricing is a little closer. Where, I can get JT on DraftKings for $1,200 more. I can get Bryson for $1,700 more on DraftKings. So I think that's my plan. Is I'm definitely going to have more Rory on FanDuel just because the pricing is a little closer together. So that's what I'm going to do on FanDuel at the top. So let's go to that 9K range. And AP kind of touched on some of the guys at the top who, we got Webb Simpson, who's going to be chalked, Xander Schauffele, who I like, Sungjae Im, who's going to be chalked, Patrick Reed, Justin Rose, Ricky Fowler. Who do you like here?
Yeah, so for me, it starts with Webb Simpson. I think just an underrated golfer. Like, he's just, especially at tracks like this, he's just phenomenal. Like, he just seems like a virtual lock to finish in the top 10. And, he might need more than that to be in the optimal lineups, but I just feel like he's going to be in contention. He always is at events like this, and just a solid golfer week in and week out. He's going to have some ownership here. But the price is a little higher than he's normally at. So, like I said, I'm not too worried about ownership. Like, I just don't think there's going to be many guys that are going to get close to 30%. So it's easy, like I said, to get overweight on these guys. So for me in this range, I'll just talk about the guys I'm going to play and then the ones I'll be fading. I really like Webb Simpson, obviously. Sung J M before the break, just phenomenal, having a phenomenal season. Really good with his irons. This is a course that definitely fits him. Morikawa, man, might have the best irons like in the game, just cannot make a putt. Like, I'd love to see the stat who's missed like the most 7-foot putts. I feel like anytime he has a putt for 7 feet or 6 feet, he misses. But just so good with those irons. If he starts sinking a couple of those putts, like, he's going to definitely be in contention. So I like those guys. The tournament guys I like in this range, Justin Rose, I think is interesting. Has played so bad, apparently not switching back, but playing with new clubs this week. The other irons obviously did not work out. It was kind of weird switch. At the top of his game, all of a sudden switched to these, I think they're called Homa clubs or something along those lines. Then he's back to the TaylorMades, and at 9K, like, if he can find any sort of form, I think he's interesting. Should be low owned. Fade Patrick Reed. I fade Patrick Reed basically every week. I fade Ricky Fowler every week. Dustin Johnson, man, he's just been a disaster this season. Going to be super low owned. I mean, I guess maybe the time off could have corrected some of the issues with his game, but I'll be off him this week. Not a good course for him. Brooks Koepka, I think, is a great tournament play, like AP touched on. Had the knee issue early on. This time off, have to imagine, has helped him quite a bit. He excels in these star-studded fields. And then Xander Schauffele, yeah, I'm kind of torn on him. I don't have a strong take, so I'll let you guys kind of touch on him.
Yeah, and you talked about Colin Morikawa, and you said 7 feet. So I got from 5 to 10 feet. Colin Morikawa is 110th in the last 50 rounds.
There it is.
He's 110th out of this field. Out of 148, he's 110th between 5 and 10 feet in his last 50 rounds. So there you go. There's your Colin Morikawa putting stat. But I'll tell you right now, man, if that putter ever turns around, this dude, he'd be unbelievable.
If he's just average from that range, that's all it takes.
Oh, man. AP, you want to finish out like the 9K range, like the bottom of the 9K? I know you talked about a few of them, but finish it out.
Yeah, I was jumping ahead, and mainly from just, I like to look at things from a roster construction standpoint. And, as I said before, when you click a name, it kind of determines the other names that you can click. And so this range, it's a super interesting range. I agree with what Hoop said on a lot of these guys. Let me just go over my fades real quick. I'm fading Dustin Johnson. I saw that price. So, like, my biggest problem this week is I've been on a guy, been off a guy, talk myself back on him, talk myself off of him. And so I'm glad that we're having this podcast tonight so that you guys can make fun of me if I'm on a bad play, or I can talk myself out of a play. So I'm officially off Dustin Johnson. And what I was getting at is when I saw that 9,500 price tag, I'm just like, man, I remember the days where DJ was like 11K plus all the times. And those days are long gone. And they could come back. Who knows? But right now they're long gone. And I don't think this break, I don't know. I don't see him as a guy grinding out there, practicing all the time. So I don't even know where his ownership is going to be at. Maybe if he was like 5% owned or under 10%, I would definitely get on him. But I feel like certain people are going to play him since he's so cheap relative to his historical price tag. I'm fading him. I'm fading Ricky Fowler. And then I was originally pretty high on Rose, and I have no idea why, because he has not played good over the last 6 months. He changed clubs, as Hoop said, and now he's playing different clubs. And what I've seen throughout the industry is people have really mentioned his name. I mean, he's won here before. This type of course is a ball striker course. And if you think of who at their height of their career was one of the best tee to green players we've ever seen, is probably Justin Rose, when he's playing as good as he can play. He's just not there right now. And I see his ownership ticking up because he's so cheap. And so I'm probably full fading him in my tournaments, full fading Dustin Johnson in my tournaments, unless for some reason projections had him really low. Full fading Ricky Fowler, even though out of those three, he's actually been playing pretty well this year. I just always think, like Hoop said, he's kind of, the public perception of him always inflates his ownership. And so I just want to be under that. I love Sung J M. There's no one that grinds harder than this guy. I'm probably going to be underweight on him. Has nothing to do with his golf game. This could absolutely destroy me, but I just think with him, we've had such a long layoff, and he's a guy that plays every single week. I feel like for a guy like that, this had to throw his rhythm off in some way, shape, or form. And his price tag is relatively high given the strength of the field. So again, like I said, Webb Simpson, Brooks Koepka. I don't mind Colin Morikawa and Patrick Reed. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on him. He just seems too expensive. So I'm probably with Hoop on him. And then Xander, I know you're asking about him, JSU. I'm the wrong guy to ask. I've never gotten him right ever. So I typically don't play him unless it's a major and it's a tough course and there's a lot of length out there because he can absolutely bomb the ball. But that's where I'm at.
All right, yeah, and I'm just going to touch on FanDuel in that like 10K range. I like Ricky Fowler at 10.9. I like that price. Matt Kuchar at 10.8. I love Matt Kuchar today. I'm sure we're going to talk about him when we get to DraftKings in the 8K range, but I love him this week. I think he in this field from 5 to 10 feet is the best putter in the last 50 rounds. He's number one out of the 148. So I like that. I like that he can putt. He's one of the best putters. And I'm definitely going to have a ton of Cooch. I'm definitely going to be overweight. Tony Finau at 10.6, I think is a really solid play. And then I think if you want to be different in GPP, Shane Lowry at 10.1, I think is really interesting. I mean, Scotty Scheffler is going to be chalk. Gary Woodland on FanDuel is going to be chalk. Finau is going to be chalk. So Shane Lowry is a pivot, from one of those guys. Morikawa is going to be chalk. Pivot from one of those 3 or 4 guys to Shane Lowry, and I think he's got upside at 10.1. So let's kind of get to DraftKings. We're going to get into the 8K range, guys. Let's give me your favorite plays in the 8K range.
Yeah, just another loaded price range here. I realize the field's obviously loaded, so I guess every price range is going to have some pretty solid golfers. But I think this is where we'll see a lot of ownership. Besides the guy at the top, and that's Mark Leishman. He's 8.9, and I think he will not have much ownership. And he's an interesting play. I mean, he's a guy that can win, and he can win in these strong fields. We've seen him do it in the past. So a format like the Millie Maker, I'm going to be very overweight on Mark Leishman. Like, to win the Millie Maker, which has 170,000 people, you have to make some pretty big stands, in my opinion. And Mark Leishman is a stand that I'm going to make. Now, on some of my higher dollar stuff, probably won't have much Mark Leishman. In the Millie Maker, I'm going to have a lot of Mark Leishman because this area, this price range, is going to hold a lot of the total combined ownership of lineups. And Mark Leishman won't be a part of that. So that's one way I'm going to differentiate myself in the Millie Maker. I'm going to have a lot of Mark Leishman. You come down, like guys like Woodland, Finau, Kuchar, Scheffler are going to be very highly owned, and rightfully so. Good golfers, good price tags. People know that, they know these guys are good. They know these guys can potentially win, and they know the price tag is fair. And you play these guys, it makes it easy to fill out. AP was talking about roster construction and some of the limitations that playing a high price guy might put on your overall lineup construction. These guys don't limit your overall lineup construction. If you play these guys, it makes it easy to build lineups, and that's what a lot of people are going to do. So be careful. Take some stands in this range. Woodland, Finau, Kuchar, Scheffler, all I think will have a good amount of ownership. All are strong plays, strong cash plays too. If you're playing cash games, this is a good range to kind of live in. That brings us to guys like Lowry, Jason Day, Fitzpatrick, Oosthuizen, Spieth, Sergio Garcia. A lot of talk about Spieth. I'm not a Spieth guy. I've never been a Spieth guy. I won't be playing Spieth. I know he's got a good track record here. It's against weaker fields. I'm not on Spieth. Oosthuizen I never play. For the same reason I don't play Oosthuizen, I don't play Jason Day. One of my favorite tournament plays on the slate is Fitzpatrick at 8.2K. The course fits him very, very well. He's contended in some strong fields here, and I'm on him at 8.2K. So like I said, those other guys we talked about going to be popular. Leishman, Fitzpatrick should have less ownership, and I think are good tournament plays.
So before we get over to AP, do you think Jordan Spieth is going to be chalk? Because I'm hearing people
Can
talk
we spend
about
2 minutes to talk about Spieth? Because I don't
definitely. What do you think?
I used to love rostering Spieth. All my people that know me and know me on podcasts, I can't come out here and say I'm not a Spieth guy. I mean, he's pissed me off over the last year, but Hoop, I need you to talk some sense in me. Here's what happened with me is I was on him. I was awesome off him. He's in that fade list. Now I talked myself back onto him, and then I threw him back on the fade list. Now I want to talk myself back onto him. It's just, I need to just throw him off.
Like I said, that's one thing I do in golf. There's guys that, for the most part, I just don't play. And for the last about year and a half, I haven't played Spieth. It's worked out pretty well, obviously. There's some guys that I'm usually on, and it doesn't work out very well. But with Spieth, usually off of him, it's worked out well. He's lost it. And the signs of him getting it back.
Here's what I think happened here is everyone at the very beginning of the week they were all clamoring, Spieth, he's going to be chalk. He's going to be chalk. And so everyone's first idea in tournaments is, he's going to be chalk. Just fade him. He's volatile. You know what I mean? He's not playing well. He's Jordan Spieth. Yes, he's good course history here, but he's Jordan Spieth, and he hasn't played well, for a while now. So like everyone is thinking that way. There's no way this guy is going to be chalky. It's not going to happen because of the tournament mindset.
He's
it's
8K
not
though.
Going to happen.
He's 8K, and his course history here is so good. No one's is better. He's like
so.
Like,
Here's
the argument. Here's the argument against.
No, I don't like him. I think he'll be chalk, and I want to fade him because I think he's going to be chalk. If he was low owned, I'd want to play him.
Here's the argument against that. He's 8K. He has been 8K for most of the season, and he still sucked. Number two, he has good course history.
Wait, someone give me his course history. What does he have?
Here's number two. Let me talk about the course history. He has good course history in a lot of places because he's like the best golfer in the world for a 2 or 3 year stretch. That's not the case anymore.
All right, so JSU, just to humor you, he's gained 51 strokes over the last 5 years. The next closest is Kevin Na at 36 strokes. So, I mean, he's absolutely dominated this course, but that was mainly through 2015 through 2017. So he had a rough year in 2018, and then he hit top 10 last year. I don't know. I mean, can you bet on it? Like an outside, like a top 10 finish? We got odds on that or anything? I mean,
we could probably pull those up, but I mean, so I'm not thinking of playing Spieth. I don't want to get people confused. I just don't think he's going to come in as chalk like people are saying he's going to come in as chalk. I just don't see it. I see in tournaments, everyone is saying this guy's going to be chalk. I'm just going to fade him, like AP saying, like Hoop saying, no way, I'm not playing him. I'm just telling you right now, by the end of the day, he is not going to end up being chalk. No, that's my opinion. But I'm not playing him either way.
What do you think he'll be in the Millie Maker?
No more than 15%. I think he comes in like 12 to 15%. I was going to say 12,
but 12 to 15%. No way he touches 20. I mean, if you want to say 15's high, I mean, okay, it's not low, but it's not like super chalky. It's just, I don't know. I see it more like 10 to 12.
The golf people use the term chalk so lightly. Like golf people need to check out ownerships in like NBA DFS if they want to see chalk.
Right. Yeah,
and
that's for sure.
I just think, I think I don't know. I think he'll be over 15%. I don't feel good enough about it to bet on it, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think I have to agree with you guys. I think we got to fade him at 8K. I hope we fade him, and I hope he's higher owned. I hope he's closer to 20%, just because I think he'd make for a great fade at that price tag. And he can absolutely catapult your lineups. I mean, you see it week in and week out. So he from a tournament perspective, I think he makes for a good fade. But man, it's scary if he gets like running. If he starts like chipping in, if he starts holing out and like chipping in and dropping like 30, 40-foot bombs, it's going to be so tilting. But that's what you got to fade.
So AP, give us your guys in the 8K range. You're fading Spieth. Who do you like? Who are your tournament plays?
Yeah, so one guy that wasn't on my radar at all that you mentioned was Shane Lowry. But if you just think of like Shane Lowry, the dude absolutely stripes his irons. He's a great ball striker, and he's probably just been boozing, having a good time during this period off. Like he's not on the playbook right now. I could make some swaps. I just think
we got to get him on there, AP.
In
Come
tournaments,
on, man.
tournaments, yeah. Oh, I mean, Spieth's on the right now, so it's an easy swap in that middle tier range. We'll throw Shane Lowry in there. The guys in this range, I think the obvious play, like if I was playing cash games in Hoop, I don't know if you said it or not, but like Tony Finau, I mean, are you locking him into cash games?
No, that's what I said. You got like Woodland, Finau, Kuchar, Scheffler, all in play for cash games, all part of all going to be a part of the playbook in some way, shape, or form. It's just this range makes it easy when you plug in guys like this. So some combination of those guys will certainly be in a lot of cash lineups, I think.
Yeah. So the guy I really like this week, who has really improved his approach game, like over the last year. And so one thing I did is I didn't look at any short-term stats. I looked at all long-term, but I wanted to see who has been making improvements to their game and in what areas. Gary Woodland has done that in his approach game, and he's been phenomenal. So he's always been good off the tee. He's always been a really long, really straight hitter. He's able to get the club real shallow, like a lot of European guys, and which, equates to a straight ball flight. And he's really improved his approach game. He ranks over the last, in my model that I'm looking at in this field, which may be different than a lot of other models out there, he ranks third in approach, which I would have never guessed Gary Woodland to do so. Now, the biggest risk is these greens are smaller than tour average, and he's pretty bad around the green. And so I'm hoping that his off the tee game and approach game really carries him, and I hope that his putter's running hot. And I think I think I like his odds of winning this week. I think he could definitely be that guy. Other people that I'll have shares of are Matt Kuchar. I like Scotty Scheffler, Texas guy. I'm going to be fading Jason Day. So Jason Day was another one of those guys that at the start of the week that I was on, I had him plugged in, and then I just talked some sense into myself. And this guy's game isn't where it needs to be. And I feel like what happens is I look at this 8,300 price tag, which I'm sure a lot of other people are, and you see this well-known name in Jason Day, and you want to play him. And so I love fading those spots, and I'm going to fade him all day. And then Sergio Garcia, anyone that knows me knows I don't like this guy's game, and I fade him all the time. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, so let me just run through the 9Ks on FanDuel. I mean, I think it's in tournaments. I think, you're looking at the 9K range and you're saying, well, we got Daniel Berger at 9,700. He's going to be somewhat popular. I think Billy Horschel, Benny On, those three guys people are going to look at. Harris English at 9,400. So, I mean, in tournaments, I mean, I know who, didn't like this guy, but I mean, no one's going to play Louis. I think everyone's afraid of playing guys like Louis and Jason Day. And when you're playing in large field tournaments, they got that big $7 tournament on FanDuel. I mean, like, yes, these guys could withdraw after one round. Like, these guys could be done. They could just pack it in. but I mean, they still could also end up with, a top 10, top 15 finish. And, I think for tournaments, I think there's strong plays. I like Kevin Na at 9,800. He's done well here. Ryan Palmer at 9,400, Abraham Answer at 9,200. So yeah, I think in tournaments, it's pretty clear where you can pivot from that chalk of like English. And Kevin Kisner. I think Kevin Kisner is a really solid play here. So let's get to the 7Ks guys on DraftKings. Let's start it off with you. Who do you like? I mean, we got the chalk, Daniel Berger, Harris English, this 7,400 range which I think is going to be very popular. The Ben Yans, the Ryan Palmers, Billy Horschel. People are going to construct their lineups with at least 2 of these guys, in my opinion, maybe 3. This is going to be a very popular range, that's 74 to like 7,700. So, I mean, just remember that, guys. When you're constructing lineups, you're in that Millie Maker, you're throwing in one dart. I mean, if you want to be different, you definitely don't want to put 2 or 3 of these guys, like more than 2 of these guys in your lineup, because I think that's going to be very chalky. I think that's what a lot of people are going to do. So who do you like?
Yeah, so this range, it's a loaded range, and we'll just talk the 7.7K down through 7.4, like you pointed out. And it's another reason, like I said, you don't have to be overly worried about ownership this week, because not all these guys can be popular. They're all great plays. They're all going to be highly touted, or are being highly touted around the industry, but there's no way they're all popular. So if there's one you like, play them at a high rate. Berger, I mean, just phenomenal start to the season, like completely turned it around. Last 3 events, top 10. I mean, just great start to the season. 7.7K. It's a value price tag. I mean, and it's one that is going to be hard to avoid. Where does his ownership come in? I'm hesitant to say anyone touches like the 30% range. So for me, if you're playing Berger, play him 40%. Kisner, another guy. I don't think Kisner will be as popular, so Kisner might be a good pivot. If you're looking to get off a popular or somewhat popular Berger, go to Kisner. Max Homa, I think, is another guy that won't be as popular in this range and has the same upside as the other guys, and a lot of the same factors too. I mean, he's been playing really well. I mean, T6, T14, T5, T24, T9 before that. Like, no one's really talking about him, and he's been just as good as everyone else in this range. So Homa is one guy I'll be looking to get a lot of exposure to. The biggest narrative of the week, I think, revolves around Ryan Palmer, a member at this course, has been playing the course, in a week that everyone's talking about, a lot of the unknowns. How rusty are these guys? Like, when's the last time they played golf? How consistently have they played golf? Ryan Palmer has been on this course, and you'd have to imagine that's a big advantage. Will drive his ownership up a little bit, but you got other guys right here at 7.4K. Benny Yon, 7.4K, a guy that is always has decent ownership. Will be relatively popular this week. I just got a text message actually from our coworker Tony Niehaus, Big T, and he wanted me to put this on the air that his dark horse to win the event is at the 7.4K price tag, and that's Billy Horschel. So Big T has Billy Horschel winning the event. Call. So do what you want with that information, but Big T is on Billy Ho to win the whole damn thing.
So you know what's going to happen, guys? Billy Ho's going to miss the cut. Everyone lock it in right now. Big T's probably yelling at me right now. He's probably going to send me a text in a second and yell at me. No, I'm kidding. I do actually like Billy Ho, but Big T, he's jinxing me a little bit. I might lower my exposure to him now in my 150. Come on, Big T.
He's such a good play. He's such a good ball striker, and he actually putts really well on bent grass historically. Yeah. And I went back as far as the records show, and he just has always consistently popped on bent grass greens, which was kind of interesting. So I think that's like Billy Horschel's a great call by Big T.
I just hate watching him putt, man. I can't stand like his form and how he addresses the ball. It's a tough scene, man. It's tough to watch, but gets it done.
I'm so tilted with this Ryan Palmer situation. He's obviously a great play. He's a member there, and he's come on podcasts. And But you're not going to listen to a podcast this week to where someone doesn't mention that exact same thing. I mean, this industry, we all have the same news, and it's still Ryan Palmer. He's really easy to fit into a lineup, but there's still a lot of – I think this range is loaded with guys that have top 10 equity. I'm not saying Ryan Palmer doesn't. He definitely does because he's done it twice over the last 5 years. What would you say his ownership's going to be, like in the Millie Maker?
I mean, I think it's going to be suppressed because I think there's so many guys in that range that in that 70, what is he, 7,400 on DraftKings? Yeah, I mean, look at the guys, like I said, between that like 7,300 and 7,700 range. I mean, you got Daniel Berger, Kevin Na, Kisner, English, Homa, Damon, Palmer, Horschel, all these guys, Joaquin Niemann. All these guys are going to kind of take away from each other. But that's why I said this is a really popular spot where people are going to have like 2 or 3 guys. And I think you definitely want to have at max 2. I wouldn't go 3. I think that's going to be very popular for some people.
And I believe I heard on a podcast he shot a 64 the other day. Is that right? 64, 65?
That's what they're saying.
Yeah. And the scores are out there. They always have been here. Like Coop said in his article, it's a great read and write-up that he does. You know, shout out to Coop. So yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that for a bit. I mean, when it comes to like a Millie Maker build, because this range is stacked. So I think the play probably is you believe in the narrative, you believe in everything that he knows about the course, and you make sure you're overweight him, or like in the 2K, 100K to first hoop. Do you think he'll be pretty popular in that, where he might be like 15 to 20% in the Millie Maker, or less than that? He might be 25 to 30.
Yeah, he'll definitely be, I think, higher in the higher dollar stuff because obviously people paying closer attention. I think at the most I'd say like low to mid 20s. Like you see it all the time. These loaded fields, like the ownership is always so much lower than you think it's going to be, just because there's so many plays. You know, we're talking about a lot of these guys. There's just no way they can all be popular, and it's just a loaded range. So I'm not overly worried. Like I don't know how much higher he'll be than like Benny On. Like Benny On's a DFS darling. People love playing Benny On.
People love and hate playing Benny On. I'll tell you that right now.
But they always end up playing him. They always end up playing him.
He's an elite ball striker, but I want to fade him because he sucks so bad at putting.
Oh, it's brutal. He is bad. He is bad.
Yeah, Benny On is he's tough to watch when he gets on the putting green. But one other thing I just want to plug here, guys. If you go to your DFS playbook right now, you can get Coop's article for free. You can get the PGA model if you just kind of want to look at all the stats and kind of look at things for yourself. We got that model up. So, I mean, go check those things out. Coop's article is such a great read, especially if you're newer to PGA. Definitely something you should check out. He also gives, the guys he's going in on in his multi-entering. He lists them all, talks about his core and how he's handling all of that. So make sure you go over and check that out on your DFS playbook right now. But yeah, so I mean, anyone else in the 7K range?
Yeah,
guys, anyone else?
Let me talk about one guy that I think will be very popular, who's just been lighting it up this year, Harris English. I don't need to say a lot about him. I mean, he's just this year he really came into form and he's been playing really well, and he has great course history here, and this course really fits his game. So at 7,500, I think he's a fantastic play. With Big T, I like Billy Horschel. Ryan Palmer, we all know he's an excellent play. Ben On, I want to fade him. I want to one thing that I think with a layoff like this, I think your short game, it's going to take, that's going to be the area that's a little bit off. And a guy where his short game is already off, I would just much rather fade him. But a guy that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that I really like, he hasn't over the last 5 years, he hasn't finished worse than 24th, is Russell Knox. So Russell Knox can absolutely stripe the ball. He's a great iron player. not a bad putter. I think he has a great game for this course. And in this range at 7,200, you could get some great leverage off of maybe a chalkier Ryan Palmer, who's just a little bit pricier than him. So, and I think you'll see people on Brian Harman. I think I would also play Russell Knox over Brian Harman as well. And I think you could see people get on Danny Lee if they're just looking at course history. I almost fell into that trap, but with this layoff, I'm not going to play Danny Lee.
Yeah, who you got anything else to add?
Answer just a little bit too cheap at like 7.3K. I think he's just a price point play. I just think his skill set is better than most guys in this range. Ian Poulter, I don't think will be highly owned, but I just really like him at courses like this and in strong fields. He seems to get up for events like this where he's facing the best in the world. Like I said, good course for him. So I like Poulter. I like Answer, Harman. The Knox call is interesting, just coming off a lot of missed cuts, but he's been good at this course. I don't think his ownership will be high, so I think he's an interesting tournament play. Corey Connors, another guy really good with his irons. Just a really
he's coming off 2 months, 3 months of doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And then one last who's Eric Van Rooyen.
EVR.
He's contended in these big boy fields. Got a cheap price tag. It's a good course for him. So I think he's an interesting play as well.
Yeah, right. And let me just run down the FanDuel on the 8K range on FanDuel. There are a few guys that I do kind of like on FanDuel. JT Postman at 8,600, I think, is a really good play. I think Brandon Todd at 8,100 is a really strong play. Bud Cauley at 8,100 and Matthew Neesmith at 8K, I think are really strong tournament plays. All right, so let's get down to the value range, the 6K range. Who do you like?
Man, so as much as I like that 7K range, you get down to the 6K range, and it's a little bit of a different story. I'll name off some guys I have interest in. I'm not going to, dedicate a ton of ownership to really any of these guys, but I'll have some sprinkles of Neesmith at 6.9K. RCB, like 6.9K seems like a good price tag for a guy that, not too long ago was a world-class golfer. Charles Howell at 6.9K, interested in him a little bit. Keep going down. Carlos Ortiz, I like. Von Taylor, I'm just a sucker for Von Taylor. Like, I just always play Von Taylor. He got hot for a while. He was hot for a while, but that is kind of
cash play, a little cash value plug in.
Yeah, but he's kind of fizzled a little bit as of late. So, but this seems like a good course for him. So I'll have some Von Taylor. But honestly, when I'm building my lineups, I'm going to try to stay above 7K. If I have to dip down, like I said, those are the guys that I'll be looking to.
Yeah, all right. I like it. AP, who do you have to add to this? Or, who do you like?
I have to agree with Hoop. It's a tough range, mainly because that 7K range is absolutely stacked. I think there's some, like, a few pump plays that could be really interesting. It's pretty gross, but when I think of a guy I want to target on a course like this, when I'm thinking of a good ball striker, a guy who's good with his irons, it's kind of gross, but like Chesson Hadley comes to mind. Like, the only part of his game that's good is his ball striking, and he sometimes pops on tough courses. I think we saw it at Pebble Beach, and we've seen it a few other times. He isn't afraid of these large field tournaments. So, like, he's going to be like 1% owned, half a percent. So he's a guy like in a milli maker. If I'm making my milli maker teams, I want, I might want to get him at like 5 to 10%, just as kind of a buffer if I'm building 150. More of a serious type play in this range. I do want to limit exposure, but I think, man, it's tough. I mean, like a Bud Cauley, Carlos Ortiz, but Carlos Ortiz, the main thing that scares me is like his biggest weapon is his driver. He's so good off the tee, and so we're going to need the rest of his game to show up. if you're gonna want to play him. So like with this range, for me, I might sprinkle in some guys that have upside, like random upside, like a Matt Wallace, Chesson Hadley, Jimmy Walker a few years ago. He's actually, since this course is in Texas, I might have him in a couple builds, talking Millie Maker. And that's what I'm doing with this range. So like when I think of like my Millie Maker builds, like if you think of like your ownership on a player, having them in like a 10 to 20% range, I want this 6K range in a range in my builds. So like, I think I might limit my Millie Maker builds to like, 10 to 15% of my builds will include players from this 6K range. I don't see a ton going on here, especially in the deep 6K range.
Yeah, and I'm just going to kind of throw out our guy Snyder. He likes Cameron Champ. That's one guy that he's been talking about. I'm going to throw out some guys on FanDuel. Now, I'm with you guys. This range is not really that appeasing. You got Carlos Ortiz, who I think will get a little love. I like Bo Hostler. He's probably one of my favorite guys, 7,800 on FanDuel. And another guy on FanDuel, it's interesting. Jim Furyk is 7K. Yeah. And this seems like a spot that Jim Furyk – now, I know he hasn't played that well recently, but it seems like a spot where Jim Furyk would be kind of solid, and he's pretty much min price on FanDuel. He's 7,100 on DraftKings. I would much prefer to play him on FanDuel at 7K min price. So, I mean, I think he's someone you can definitely take a shot with. So let's kind of get into our favorite, cash and tournament pivots at each range. Guys, if you want to throw in some questions, maybe we'll take a few questions at the very end. But Hoop, let's start with you. Give me your favorite, 2 cash plays in like the 9 to 11-8 range. Give me your 2 favorite cash plays.
Yeah, I think more people than not are going to be going more balanced in cash because you can just get a very solid lineup. So I see a lot of lineups either starting with Webb Simpson or coming down and starting with Sungjae Im or Morikawa or even both of them. So I think those are the 3 above 9K that are, kind of your cash staples like Webb, Im, or Morikawa, or you can easily get 2 of those. Then you come down into the 8K range. You're going to have Woodlands, Finau, Kuchar, Scheffler, and then you're going to see people probably go to 2 of those 7K guys that we talked about. So it's going to be some combination of that. Just a matter of which ones you feel most comfortable with. A lot of different routes to go, a lot of different options, but you're not going to see too many people starting their cash games with Rory McIlroy or Jon Rahm this week just because of the price difference.
So let me ask you a question. For cash specifically, is that wrong? Is that what you're doing? Are you starting with guys in the 9K range? Are you not touching the Rorys and the JTs and all them?
I think it's the right move because then you can kind of live more in this 8K range and you don't need to play 3 of this. If you play Rory, start with Rory, you're going to be playing 3 of these 7K guys, which we like. We like the 7K guys, but it's common sense. There's a lot more risk involved with playing 3 7K guys opposed to playing 3 8K guys. So I think it's the right move. But
on FanDuel, I would assume it's a little different, right? Because the
FanDuel is much different. Yeah, you'll see in the playbook. I kind of talked about it later. It's a completely different build. One, I mean, the main difference is Jim Furyk at 7K. You plug in Jim Furyk at 7K, but you don't have to. I mean, he's not a lock. Like you don't need to, but if you do, you're playing 5 strong golfers go along with them. So I think a lot of people will be going there. Even in tournaments, people are going to be going that route too. And it makes it easy to kind of differentiate yourself. I mean, Jim Furyk, Jim Furyk is far from a lock to make the cut at this event. He has a better chance than most 7K guys on FanDuel. Don't get me wrong, but no lock to make the cut. And a lot of teams are going to have Jim Furyk this week on FanDuel.
But you would be more willing to play a JT or a Rory on FanDuel?
Yeah. Their ownership's going to be so much higher across the board, cash, tournaments, everything on FanDuel. Right. They're going to be it's just a easier, softer pricing structure there. And it's always easier to get up to the more expensive guys there. And then you throw in a guy like Jim Furyk at 7K, it makes it even easier.
So, I mean, maybe the balance build on FanDuel might not be as chalky as on DraftKings, which is what you were
Correct.
talking about.
Yep.
All right, nice. So, AP, who are your pivots in each range? Give me one or two of your favorite guys. Start off in that 9K and up range.
Yeah, I know a lot of us out there are thinking the Millie Maker. I mean, it's rare for an event like this to see a Millie Maker. Those are usually reserved for the majors. And so I'm going to speak to my strategy revolving around that tournament. And here's how I'd play it. Like, just like Hoop said, so you're going to have like if I'm playing cash, like Hoop said, you're going to see a lot of balance builds. Those balance builds get played in tournaments. People overlap them. They just do it. Outside of that, you're going to see people go to Rory. I think in tournaments, you're going to want to see people get exposure to Rory. So what I want to do is in my Millie Maker, whether it's, I don't know if I'm doing like 100 or 150. I haven't decided yet, but I want to just absolutely plant a flag and go all in on a player in this tier. And I really think that guy might be Justin Thomas. Now the downside with a strategy like this is I could get absolutely torched. I could lose, all my money or all my lineups, if he misses the cut. But I love JT's game in this or for this course. I just think it really sets up well for a guy that is an elite ball striker, which he is. He's one of the best out there. He ranks first over the last 100 rounds in approach, and he's an okay putter, but I think his approach game, his iron game, and the fact that he's been constantly grinding on social media, I think is going to weigh into this. And I think what's going to happen is in this range, people are going to click on Rory, they're going to click on Rahm, and we're going to get a ton of leverage with Justin Thomas. And so I'm not saying I'm going all in on him, but I would love to, because here's what happens. I mean, JSU, you know this in tournaments. If he wins the tournament, like if we're right on him in an event like this, if we just plant our flag and if we go all in, or if we go, something crazy like 70%, all our lineups are going to be set up. They're going to put us in a position to win. And honestly, if you want to win the Millie Maker, you probably do need to go all in on your guy that you think is going to win. So for me in this range, I think it's Justin Thomas. And the one thing about his price is that doesn't exclude guys like Webb Simpson and Brooks Koepka. You can fit them into your build because we have so much value in that 7K range. So that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm extremely high on Justin Thomas. Am I going to go all in? I don't know, but I'll definitely be overweight.
Yeah, and I will say with a strategy like that, that allows you, if you're locking that guy in, that kind of allows you to play with a little more of the guys in the 6K range. So I do like it as a strategy. So yeah, I mean, I like it. You guys want to give out your winners? Who do you like? Who's your winner?
All right, I have something special for my winner. Hang on, I found a little something. Just bear with me for 1 second here. The guy I'm picking to win this week, someone I was pretty high on when we talked about him. Not her, but Mr. Morikawa. Like I said, elite with the irons. I mean, just phenomenal iron game. You had the statistics. Awful putter from 5 to 10 feet. Maybe during quarantine, the lockdown, he worked on 5 to 10 foot putts and got better. That's the hope. Maybe he becomes an average putter from that range, which I think would get him some wins. I mean, because his iron game is so damn good. So I'm on Morikawa to win. Like him, bright future in the PGA Tour. I think he's going to have a lot of wins to go along with it, but picking Morikawa this week.
I like it. AP, who do you like?
So I like that call. Tony's Big T's going to make fun of this call because it's not anything like crazy or anything. But here's what I think is going to happen. I think Justin Thomas is going to win. I think Billy Horschel is going to end up in the top 5. And Morikawa will get third. How about that?
I'll take it.
5.
Be happy with that.
I like it. And I am going to go with my guy, Matt Kuchar. I think Matt Kuchar ends up winning this tournament. I really like him, one of the best putters in the tournament. So, yeah, I like Kuch. a lot. Just wanted to hit up. There was 2 questions. Someone asked Redmond or Gim on FanDuel. They're both min price. I like Redmond. If I had to choose between the 2, I think you could go Redmond. You guys have a lean either way. Who?
Yeah, I'd go Redmond. I mean, he's showing some decent upside. Obviously those are deep tournament type plays, not building block type plays. But I'd go Redmond.
Yeah, and then balanced or 2 to 3 high end studs on FanDuel GPP. Who? AP.
Go hoop with that one.
FanDuel question. On FanDuel, the popular build is going to be playing the studs. Like, it's easy, like we kind of touched on. It's so easy to get up there. Just very different pricing between the 2 sites. So I think a balanced build will be a little more contrarian, and it's kind of what you want in tournaments, be a little bit different. So I like the balance more on FanDuel.
Here's
for sure.
The one thing that we've seen a lot of is racing, okay? And our guy Coop is always in here talking about his formulas and his rules per race, having 1 dominator, 2 dominators, place differential guys. You can look at golf the same way. Create your dominator list. That's going to be the studs in this event. You could only fit 1 or 2 of them in there. I don't know if you could fit 3, but then build it out, treat some of these other guys as place differential and make your player pools if you're using an optimizer. And I think it's a good strategy to use.
Yeah, for sure. I like it. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. Remember, subscribe, check out runpuresports.com. We will be launching soon, hopefully within the next couple of days. So make sure you get over there, check it out, subscribe. You'll get all the news right when it comes out. Go to your DFS playbook for now and get Coop's article, the models, all the breakdowns, everything. And then, give us a like, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening to us, YouTube, Twitch, give us a like, comment, subscribe, check us out. So we really appreciate that. But for me, JSU, we out.